only way to describe what we witnessed on Monday night. The Vikings were overwhelmed by the Rams, but this has got some clarity, at least for the divisional weekend. Yes, it will be this Rams squad traveling across the country to Philadelphia to match up against the Eagles, the 2 seed in the NFC. That and the entire slate of games this coming weekend. And, of course, we will have all of the coverage all week long on NFL Network. In a lot of ways, kind of historic to see what this defense was capable of doing. David, most sacks that you took as a quarterback?
Yeah, 10. I think against the Chargers and Junior Seau. But, man, I mean, it can have an effect on you. It clearly did with Sam. But hats off to the Rams. I mean, they did a fantastic job of applying pressure, mixing in the looks that Detroit threw at him last week. Vikings obviously didn't have an answer for it, and Sam kind of played the same way he did last week.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson was pretty much a non-factor. So everything married well. Pressure, coverage, great game plan by Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula, passing game coordinator Aubrey Pleasant, and just what a nightmare of a game for the Vikings. Everything was a disaster from the time the Rams opened the game, took it right down the field and scored, and from that point on, they just put their foot on Minnesota's throat, and that was that.
You know, how are you supposed to win a game like this? You see the stats here, 9 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, the interception, the fumble recovered, the 2 turnovers in this game. I said this to you at halftime. I'm like, damn, I know it's 3 touchdowns. It feels like it should be worse than this.
It felt like it should be worse, but, I mean, Minnesota did not play well. The offensive line got dominated for the second week in a row. Sam Darnold absolutely struggled. It was a disaster, I mean, for the second week in a row. And then defensively, I mean, they did what they could, but it still wasn't really a good match. But, I mean, when you see, all of the sacks and the giveaways and the mistakes they did offensively, it was an utter disaster. I mean, David, look at this. They just collapsed the line of scrimmage, and then Kobe Durant with a great pick just all over the receiver.
Well, they mixed up the looks. The Rams aren't a team, we talked about it before the show, they don't pressure a lot. They like to rush forward. They stunt up front. They'll use some line stunts, but they want to play coverage on the back end. But they've got up in their face. They did some things that Detroit did. They brought some pressures, but then after they showed that they had Sam Darnold rattled a little bit, they kind of backed off and just still used their line stunts to get pressure and squeeze the pocket. And then he was indecisive. Then he was inaccurate. Kind of the same things we saw last week. And it kind of just snowballed from there.
Are you surprised? Because, look, the reality is we always talk about the offensive players, and there's stars on this Rams offensive team. This is a young defensive unit. Dare I say, like, the identity slowly as this season has unfolded has been what this team does on the defensive side.
I mean, and that's a great point. And think about this. Their defensive front is all first- and second-year players. 7 of their 9 sacks came from that group up front. And so, they had a safety blitz and another corner blitz to get the other sack. First- and second-year players, David. So they're developing. They're learning under the scheme. But the tenacity with which they played with, it was almost hateful. It was disrespectful with how they treated the offensive line. They're physical. They're quick. But, I mean, once they smell the blood and water, it was an absolute... Well, no need to take the foot off the gas here.
And you made a great point before the game started that these are 2 guys that know each other very well offensively, right? So I think that is something that you saw them attack the schematics of Kevin O'Connell's offense. And obviously Sean McVay probably had a big part in what this offense even looks like, honestly. Right. And so he knew exactly the weaknesses of it. You saw them attacking protections with their different line twists, with the extra pressure off of the play action looks when they get in tight formations. Like Sean, I'm sure he relayed that information over to the defensive side. And the defensive side, with a lot of young guys, they just dialed in the game plan and did a tremendous job of attacking Minnesota. Minnesota's been attacking all year. They've been taking shots downfield. They've been kind of going at people. L.A. kind of flipped it on them, and they started attacking them.
And schematically, you can do all that stuff, but it doesn't work unless you have guys who go out there and execute it. And, again, they executed it with an exclamation point.
They did.
It was absolutely, I mean, they played with fearlessness. It was almost like we have house money. Let's go out there and do what we do. The way that secondary played, that secondary looked as good as any secondary in the NFL. Quentin Lake was spectacular from the safety position, blitzing, coverage. Kelly Weatherspoon, before he got hurt, really was doing a good job on Justin Jefferson. Kobe Durant with the sack and the pick across the board. Again, their game plan was amazing.
And even on the back end, like to your point on the back end, they're in the right spot. They trust each other's leverage. Like Justin Jefferson's hard to cover, but there were several times they tried to take shots down the field on him, and there was a guy that just trusted that I have help inside. They would stay outside. They kept their leverage. They didn't buy on the double moves, and they were in perfect position on the down the field throws with the pressure being applied up front. It was a great game plan, great execution.
We're going to continue to unpack this game, figure out what really has gone wrong in these last couple weeks here from a Minnesota perspective. We got the press conferences around the corner, but we take you back to Glendale, where Bridget Condon is standing by with Kobe Turner.
Kobe, with city of LA?
Yeah, we had the city on our back this week, and I'm glad we were able to go out and pick up a dub. You know, McVay's been talking to us all week about the fact that we're built for this. Everything that we've gone through from this season up till now has prepared us for this exact moment, prepared us to go take victory like we just did. And so the next journey is on the way. You know, we head up to Philly, and we're excited for that too as well. But we're built for this, man. All the trials, all the tribulations, all the ups and downs. We've weathered the storm. You figure out the true testament of a team, how they react in a storm. And we started in the storm, and now we're up here. So I'm just excited to keep going with these guys.
This defense dominant tonight. 9 sacks, 6 sacks in the first half. You had 2 of those. How were you able to be so effective against Sam Darnold?
Yeah, we had a good game plan dialed up. And at the end of the day, when we have our guys out there, man, we go and hunt. And so the first thing is being able to stop the run. And then once we know it's a passing down situation, we're going to go out there and hunt. And so I'm just excited the way that all 4 guys rushes 1, 5 guys at times as well. But that's exactly who we are. That performance that we had today, that's who we are. So looking forward to continuing to show who we are throughout the rest of the playoffs. But that's exactly who we are. I don't know whoever thought something else. It doesn't matter. It's always been about what we have in this building, and what we have is something special. So we're looking forward to keeping it going.
1-4 to start the season. Now you're going to the divisional round playoffs. What is it about this team that no matter what the adversity is, you find a way?
It's resiliency, man. And similar thing happened last year, but it doesn't matter. You know, once we start out 1-4, the way that we just kept going to work, kept showing up. Eventually, the work that you put in is going to build to a result that you want, and that's what we have. We have a process focus instead of a results focus, and because of that process, we've been able to get to where we are now, and because of that process, that's going to help us have a lot of success down the road as well.
A trip to Philly on Sunday, a team that beat you at your place back in November. What's it going to take?
It's get back time. It's not going to take anything other than the best of who we are and the best of what we do. We don't have to be anybody other than ourselves, and it's get back time. We already had a little get back game versus Arizona Cardinals at the house, and now we're going to Philly, man, and you know they exposed us pretty well on that defense and offense as well, and so now it's time for us to get our get back. You know, what more can you want than to go up to Philly to have an opportunity to go and beat an opponent that beat you earlier to compete to get to the championship round.
Enjoy this one. Thank you.
Thank you.
The get-back game, and let's revisit what happened when the last time these two teams met. That dude, Saquon Barkley, put on an absolute show. Take you back, this game happening in week number 12. There's not much this dude can do on the football field. It's going to be a load for this defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you saw right there was one guy trying to tackle him. Tonight, there was never a tackle where there weren't four blue and gold helmets around the ball.
Especially early, like Kobe talked about stopping the run early. That's exactly what they did. So they're gonna definitely show up in Philly and have that box loaded, forcing Jalen to throw the football.
Yeah, you get a 70-yard touchdown, by the way. You get the oxygen. It makes sense to me. Next Eagles possession here. There's more for that Saquon dude. Had 4 catches in this game for 47 yards.
Yeah, Lane Johnson downfield. The offensive line's going to be a little bit different next week, too, when the Rams show up in Philly.
That's a good point. Kenneth Gainwell, yeah, into the end zone he goes. That was his first rushing touchdown of the season. The Seagulls. That was a team actually back in the day. We can do the history lesson another time. So we Rams possession. Matthew Stafford getting brought down. And maybe this is a little different. This Eagles defense from a year ago, you talk about the pressure that they get up front. This is going to be difficult for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to have to do a lot of what he did tonight. Get the ball out of his hand quick.
Oh, boy.
Quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you just see him there. Once he got through, they had all the pressure up front. Once he got through, you know, it was wide open green space. That's not going to happen. I will say this. If the Rams play defense, like Kobe Turner said, this is who we are. If they play defense like they did tonight, we're not going to see that. It's going to be a physical slugfest on both sides of the ball.
It needs to be physical. I didn't make reference to this. Saquon Barkley had 255 rushing yards, over 300 yards from scrimmage. I mean, this Rams team really does need to play differently to avoid another loss here. Yeah,
well, I think a lot of what they showed today was what they're capable of, clearly. So you have a young team, and it takes a while for you to develop who you are. And if you can get into multiple looks and different pressures like they showed tonight, that would be incredible, because the last thing you want to do against a team like Philly is just show up in a too-high shell, put 4 on the line of scrimmage and kind of let them do what they want to do. I mean, that'd be the last thing you'd want to do. So clearly, obviously, with the numbers that you spoke of, they want to change that up. So I would expect, kind of like Steve said, there's going to be a loaded front. Like, you just look at what they did today when they were playing. I mean, the first couple runs from Minnesota, I mean, it was a stone wall across there. And he talked about it. Like, we have to stop the run first. That's going to be, I mean, that's the absolute first thing that Sean McVay's talking about and the defensive coordinator's talking about is run, forcing, you know, A.J. Brown to go to sideline, start reading his book, because that's, you want to put the ball in Jalen's hands. That's kind of where they're at with Philly right now.
And look, that loss was the Rams' only loss in a 7-game stretch. That was kind of the wake-up call. That was like, okay, what are you guys going to be? You played a good team, and you got taken to the woodshed. So from that point on, they started playing better football all around. But again, defensively, we've seen that defensive front play well for most of the season. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, guys like that. But again, the way the second and third levels played tonight,
yes, much improved.
It was absolutely outstanding. And again, they broke the Vikings in the first half. Yeah. Offensively, again, the Eagles aren't gonna go out like that. But this is going to be a much more interesting game than maybe it looks on paper.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would also add to that, you talk about some of the losses or that loss down the stretch. This is a team that lost 4 out of its first 5 games.
Yeah, injuries.
Totally decimated by injuries. This is a different team that we've seen in the second half of the season, just because of health alone. You know, had they been healthy, I don't know if we're talking about them as a 4 seed. Maybe they were in.
Các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh YouTube của mình. Video ngày hôm nay của mình sẽ là video gì đây? Nhiều quá, không biết làm video gì. Đây, rất nhiều những sản phẩm mình đã chuẩn bị để tô màu để gửi tặng đến tất cả các bạn đây. Đấy, những sản phẩm chắc các bạn rất chi là quen thuộc, những đồ dùng, con vật đây, và đồ dùng đi theo mình là hộp xăm màu của mình đây. Đây là những cây màu đầy màu sắc này, rất chi là tuyệt vời nha. Các bạn, nếu các bạn thấy hay, hãy cho mình like và đăng ký kênh nha.
Bây giờ mình sẽ tiếp tục tô màu nha các bạn.
Mọi người đây, 2 màu đây, 2 bông hoa của mình đây. Giờ đi sửa hạt sỏi nhá. Hạt sỏi nhá, mọi người đây. Con